Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
Days that just go wrong, make you wanna holler and shout and throw your hands up in the air, wondering what it's all about. And you think that things can't get much worse in a second, oh, everything just goes south. Keep on keeping on, whatever don't kill you makes you strong. Don't you worry, it won't be long. Darkness comes before the dawn. I'll take it one day at a time. With God's grace, you're gonna be fine. You got what it takes down inside. Road ain't alone. Keep on keeping on. Some people will stand in your way. They're always saying what you cannot do. Don't stop chasing your dreams. Working hard to make them come true. Oh. And if it ever gets too tough, just remember your faith will always see you through it. Keep on keeping on. Whatever don't kill you makes you strong. Don't you worry, it won't be long. Darkness comes before the dawn. Take it one day at a time. With God's grace, you're gonna be fine. You got what it takes down inside. The road ain't alone. Keep on keeping on. Keeping on, whatever don't kill you makes you strong. Don't you worry, it won't be long. Darkness comes before the dawn. I'll take it one day at a time. With God's grace, you're gonna be fine. You got what it takes down inside. The road ain't long. Keep on. The road ain't
keeping on. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you strong. That is the theme of this show, and that's what this particular show is going to be all about, because I'm going to tell you, J.D. Winteregg has kept on keeping on. He's put one foot in front of the other. My grandmother used to tell me that all the time. We hiked a lot, and she liked to use illustrations. She'd say, put one foot in front of the other. She says, that goes for this hike, but it goes for life as well. And boy, was she right. And J.D. has done that. He's kept on keeping on. It's been an incredible story, and I'm going to have J.D. tell the story of how things have occurred over the last few years and gotten to where they're at. But I want to tell you, folks, if there is any doubt in your mind that John Boehner retired because J.D. Winteregg was on his heels, let me tell you, there's no doubt in my mind that John Boehner. But when John Boehner left, folks, I want you to understand, I'm going to jump out of the arena of politics for a second and jump into the arena of campaign, because that's what this show's about tonight. This is to help J.D. push towards the finish line. And in a campaign, and especially J.D.'s campaign, when John Boehner retired, that was not good for the campaign. It was great for America. J.D. was glad it happened, I guarantee that, but it wasn't the best thing in the world for his campaign. When you take the nemesis away, fundraising tends to dry up, help tends to dry up, and that's just a natural part of the campaign foundational principles. But so here we go sitting, and then after John Boehner retired, there was two ways this could go. Either J.D. could get a very strong opponent to run to the finish line against, or a bunch of people could jump in and split the other side of the boat and let J.D., who's been working on this a long time, take what he's got and run with it. And that's what happened. And J.D. will have to give me the numbers. I think at one time there was like 20 people running. I think it's down to 12 to 14. I don't know. I can't keep track of how many people are running against J.D. But J.D. has got some incredible momentum right now. He's got some great things going on in Ohio on the ground, and he's got some incredible things going on in the cyberspace. We always say when we support a candidate here on this show, maybe you're right there where you can get out and knock doors with JD or go help him physically, or maybe you're in Alaska. And we got some great friends up there in Alaska that do a lot of great things for candidates all over the country. So either one of those, we're going to be asking you for your help. All of the links are in the show page. I want to remind everybody, you can go down there, you can find jdwinteregg.com is his website, and, of course, all his social media is attached. I want to tell you, folks, I want you to go to J.D. Winteregg's website, and I want you to look around. I want you to join the website. I got some really, really good friends, and I'm going to tell you they're doing amazing things with technology and campaigns today. Absolutely incredible things, and it's an interactive website. And you can go there, and it will help you help J.D. Everything's all set up. A few years back, you had to go and do all this stuff yourself. It's all right there at the website. There's some of the latest technology in campaign websites going on at JD's website. So I want to get everybody there. You can find all of his social media. Please give him a help. Whether you can share, I'm going to pull the Jerry Lewis out of me here for a minute. You can share. You can talk about him. Contact people in your area. If you're on the ground in Ohio, get a hold of JD and give him some of your time. Or if you got some money, throw it his way. And I'm going to tell you something about J.D. J.D. is going to use your money wisely, okay? It's not being thrown away needlessly in this campaign. J.D. does not need a huge amount of money to win this. He's got a strong grassroots effort, but it does take money. So if you can do that, do that. We've got Jennifer Montrose on the line. We've got Dan Wilson on the line. We've also got Gary Remmer with us this evening, who is one of our hosts on Saturday Symposium. We're going to bring him in a little bit, but we want to get right to J.D. I'm going to bring you in, J.D. Everybody, Jennifer, Dan, say hi to J.D. J.D., welcome to Contending for Truth Radio. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Welcome.
Welcome.
JD, I want to, I want to talk starting with how you got here, because, as we look at this campaign for the last few years, actually, because you ran against John Boehner once, and with a fraction of the money he spent, you really made a dent. You made a huge dent, which was important. Then you started this next time, and you already had some good experience, and you had a donor group already. You've gone forward. It's been a fascinating campaign to watch from the beginning until now. So if you can just tell our listeners, where did it all start? You at one point decided, I've had enough. The best way to get rid of John Boehner is to primary him in his own district. And you decided to. And from there, your life has never been the same, has it?
No, it hasn't. Just the things I've learned in this whole process has been eye-opening, disturbing, and angering, and that's why I stick it out. I think a lot of these people in power, a lot of these people in these elected positions are just there because they lasted longer than everyone else. And typically the smart people just bail because they figure it's not worth it. And it's time we stop that process. We got to get good people in there, and I think I'm the right guy for the seat.
Well, it is. And JD, why, in the very beginning, what was it that really pushed you over the edge and made you decide that you needed to run against John Boehner? And you're running still for the same principles, even though John Boehner is gone.
Right.
And get him out of there and replace him with something different. What started that all in the first place?
What started it was I was working on my PhD coursework in foreign and second language ed, so learning how to teach teachers to teach. And in those courses, it was highly progressive, and I was doing that while Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were facing off. And I was learning about the left, what the left does, why they do it, what their end game is. And I realized that Mitt Romney had no clue what he was up against. He had no clue what he was fighting. And I turned to my representative to see, how he handled all that. It was the same thing. And so happened my representative was John Boehner. And one thing I really pulled from these, this progressive world that I think was worthwhile was this idea of finding your voice. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it. One thing, too, I was biblically, I was reading James, and there was a verse in there. In particular, he who knows what's right but does nothing, to him it's a sin. Realized I wasn't doing anything politically to help change things. So the idea of finding my voice and actually doing something, it's what pushed me there.
And it's important because when you decided to do that, the establishment basically threatened you. And you lost your job.
Yeah.
And you kept moving on. And you got to the election, and I always called it a win, JD. Every time after that election was over and I posted, I said you won because you took a big chunk. Mm-hmm. You took a little bit of money, a whole lot of grassroots effort, and you took a chunk out of John Boehner, and you made him spend a lot of money. How many? But what was the results of that primary? How many points did you win?
I won about close to a quarter of the vote.
Quarter of the vote.
Yeah, he spent over $1 million. I spent probably $100,000.
Exactly.
I got about a quarter of the vote. For someone who had never run before for office, who was a teacher, who was told, you don't understand what you're doing, I'd say I did pretty well.
Exactly.
And, I learned a lot. I'm not. I guess the slowpoke they all think I am, and I think that's a huge advantage this time. With I think it's 16 guys in this race, and one Democrat. I don't know why he's even bothering, but with that many people in here, I hold the leg up. I'm the only one who's done the congressional thing, so it's an exciting thing. It's really weird. There's really no blueprint for a campaign like this, so we're just doing a lot of what we know to be true and a lot of what's in our gut, and it's worked out well so far.
Well, and there's a lot of passion, and that's what the one reason I was very excited when you announced this last year that you were going to run against John Boehner again. And as I've watched campaigns, we know that the first race very rarely ever gets won. There's a learning curve. There's a lot of things. But when you jump into that second race, the learning curve has been dissolved a lot. You've already got a donor base already set up. You've already got a grassroots base set up. You've already got a lot of voters that had already decided they liked you. You start in a totally different position than you did the first time. And so I knew whatever you took from John Boehner the first time, that was a good starting spot. And now we got a long time to run and get the rest of what we need. And I'm a firm believer that John Boehner started looking at the numbers and knew he did not want another Eric Cantor, David Brat situation in Ohio with the speaker's race because it would destroy the establishment. And right. I think it was better than John Boehner. I think they were terrified of that, and with good reason, because I'm going to tell you, this Texan down here was salivating at the prospects of not just you winning, JD, but again, the grassroots effort toppling the powerful establishment. Because when David Brat did that to Eric Cantor, it reverberated. And it was so important. And you decided to jump in. I want you to kind of tell us where we're at right now. You've got 16 opponents. I see different numbers in Team JD all the time, trying to keep track of how many people.
Yeah.
So you're sitting at 16, which is a wonderful thing. If you were running against one person right now, although it might be a little bit different kind of campaign, it would be a much more uphill battle. But you're sitting in a pretty good spot. So kind of tell us exactly where you're at, what's going on there, things that are happening.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Dave Bratt and Eric Cantor. We actually hired on Dave Bratt's campaign manager during that race as an advisor, and he's really huge help. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You might as well go to the guy who did it. So he'll be flying in, doing a fundraiser with us this week. We're excited about that. It's honestly, with the number of guys in here, we've got a couple establishment candidates who hold office now, who will pull money from the Republican Party statewide. We've got a couple guys who are self-funding, who pretty much just think they can buy their way into power. The thing I don't think they're thinking about is this is a presidential primary, and Ohio is a swing state, and there's going to be a lot of money spent on that end as well. So, you go to your mailbox, you get 8 mailers, you're going to throw them all away. It's going to get annoying. This literally is going to come down to individual voter contact, and I've got a great head start with that. I've got a leg up on everyone else, and I'm making huge strides. We've had a couple big donations come in recently from people in the district. So that's one area we had to transition. We went from a national race to now a more local race, and we're starting to pick up momentum with that. So I'm excited about it. And there wasn't anybody else who stood up and fought, even though they all had the same opportunity, and I can hang my hat on that. And I'm proud to be able to do that, and I think that's why people are jumping on board with me.
Well, and exactly, and it really is it's been an important part of your campaign, that issue. You were fighting John Boehner a long time before any of the rest of these guys decided they want to jump into Congress. And it's because, and we'll get into more of who JD is as we pass you around the table. We come to this time. I've talked enough. Got to let Jennifer and Dan have you a little bit, and we're going to bring Gary in, and then we've got Glenn Atkinson is there listening. He's in the studio with us as well. We'll bring him in. Because, JD, I'll tell you, you've got some really strong support here within this group of patriots right here in Have. And we're going to do everything we can do to help you. And I want to tell everybody again, please go to the website, check it out, go and involve yourself in it. There's things you can do at the website. Do that. All the information is there in the thing. So Jennifer Montrose, I'm going to hand JD down to you for your concerns. I'll let you hand him to Dan. Dan, if you'll hand him off to Gary, and then Glenn, I'll have you unmuted by then, and we'll bring you in, and everybody can just have some questions, and we'll just talk about this campaign. So Jennifer Montrose down in Alabama.
Welcome, JD, again. This is a real exciting race. I've been following this since the first time you ran, and it's definitely this is the season, 2016 election. This is definitely the season for politics not as usual.
Uh-huh.
It's and what I have been able to see you do this time around has been just awesome, and I know you have to give a shout out to your volunteers because it does take boots on the ground. So what would you have to say that has been some of the interesting stories that you've run across with your volunteers? Because I know that you can't just do it by yourself. It takes a massive ground game. And I know there's got to be some really special stories that will stand out.
Right. Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without people helping me out, without my volunteers. And, I may be biased, but I think I've got the best ones in the district out of any candidate. I would attribute that to the fact that we've built relationships. They're also my friends. I didn't necessarily know them going into it, but I've worked with them so much now that we've become friends, and I really enjoy fighting with them. Not like within the campaign, but we're side by side fighting the establishment. It's kind of crazy. Some of these guys, they're paying for their volunteers, and talking to any of them, There's no loyalty there, and I know the volunteers I have. They're absolutely loyal. They've been great and hardworking, and there's really a purpose behind what they're doing. And I think that's the difference in this. And I think people see that. People see the passion behind their work, and that's why our team continues to grow.
Well, and also, I mean, I don't think that they would be as enthusiastic if it wasn't for the type of candidate, the person that you are. Not just you're not a politician. You're somebody who actually jumped in this thing because you saw what was going on in your district and you didn't like it and you wanted to make a difference. And, especially when we see what's going on in our schools, and there just seems to be so much government intrusion. I mean, we see that in Oregon, and other places around the country, and I think it's time that we had a new, fresh, person to jump into office with some new, fresh ideas, because apparently what Boehner was doing is not working, and, the other candidates that are just trying to keep the establishment afloat, and I think this is the season where America has decided that they're not going to take it anymore.
Right. And let me give you I can give
you
a different perspective too. I'm at the old end of the millennial generation, but talking to anybody my age and in my generation, we have had no say in the $19 trillion of debt that's been racked up. That's been spent already. And we understand that the burden on our shoulders is not only to take care of the baby boomers who spent our money, but generations that come up behind us. And that's a heavy burden to carry. And that's something that has been placed on us. These same people who placed that on us tell us that they know how to get us out of this. And, I think the American public, for the most part, understands that it's these politicians who are the reason why we're experiencing the hardship we are. I mean, they've sold us a lie that we need to go hugely into debt in order to get an education, only to find out that, really doesn't give us a salary we need to to cover the loan. And, it's tough. So that perspective, I think the American public realizes it's actually time to turn to my generation because we're ready to lead. We're chomping at the bit. And the people who are leading right now aren't doing anything for us. They just won't get out of the way.
You're so right. You're so right. I mean, we have a current divider-in-chief who is in support of illegal immigration coming into this country and wreaking havoc, and it's destroying our economy. And I'm sure you see that in Ohio with the economy and just all the things that are happening now. It's, and people crying and wanting free education and $15 an hour just to work at McDonald's, and I'm sure you've gotten well aware of, what's going on in your district too. So, it's just, we don't need another candidate that's just giving lip service. We want somebody who's actually going to make a difference, and I believe that you're that guy. And I think that most of the voters in Ohio 8 will see that as well. The more they get a chance to get to know you, and the closer you get to the primary, I think that more excited people will become.
Yeah, they're already getting excited. I think. I mean, there's 16 candidates in this, and it's really funny how people just what the so-called experts. How they predict things. It's just they've been wrong every step of the way, and it's kind of a funny process. Like I said, there's no blueprint for this. So it's just a matter of keeping our heads down and going for the votes we know we need to go for, and we'll win it if we do that.
So what are some of for those who are hearing this for the first time, what are some of the questions that you get asked the most that are very important to you as far as economy or Second Amendment or the immigration? I know there's
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're a pretty ag-heavy district, and actually our district is divided. John Boehner drew the lines. So down where he's from in his county, that has half the population of the district. And there's a big concern here with the rest of the district that, the power has been centralized down there, and they're making decisions for us down there. It's more metropolitan, and you look at the rest of the district, and it's pretty ag heavy. So the concerns primarily from people in most of the district are agricultural in nature, educational in nature. They're really strong advocates to get rid of the Common Core, which, I stand with them on that. And I think they're worried about our national security, and I have a different take on that. One question I'm asked a lot is, what's the greatest threat to our country? And you listen to the other candidates and don't mention, ISIS or domestic terrorism, but they've got it all wrong. The greatest threat to our national security is progressivism. That's the root of all of these things they mentioned. Our border wouldn't be porous without progressivism. We wouldn't have ISIS over there without progressivism and pandering to what they view as marginalized populations. It's just that's the greatest threat to our national security, and that's the greatest threat to everything we know. So, talking to people, getting all these questions, bringing it back to progressivism and pointing that out, they understand that not only am I conservative, but I'm someone who understands how to fight, and that's why, I'm gaining the support I am, because they know I'm the fighter.
Well, and I also think about progressive liberal professors that teach in our college campuses, and they're teaching our youth that are coming up, that are new voters, to believe and think the way of Bernie Sanders and so much of the other communists, and they don't even know the difference, and so it's important, I believe, to have somebody like you, because I agree that when you have progressive voters coming out to the polls, because that's how they've been taught and raised, it's totally different generation now than what we had, during the day of Ronald Reagan when he was running for office. So much different,
Right.
So,
higher education is a progressive monopoly right now. We really need to take a hard look at that, because we're subsidizing with our taxpayer money these student loans to run our kids through a wholly progressive environment, and they come out wrong on the other side. And it's crazy. Nobody seems to want to target that.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Dan?
Oh, definitely. Hi, JD.
Hey.
I'm so glad we can get you on the show. And, you were just talking about what's going on in the college atmosphere. My father taught mechanical engineering at the University of Rhode Island, so I grew up in the academic world. He got his PhD back in the 60s, and I was in the midst of that transitional period. And when I was in the college in the late 70s, you could see that transition beginning to really take hold. In fact, the faculty, my freshman year, my sophomore year, went on strike. And I had a brand new car that I worked my tail off for, and I'm going to school carrying 15 credit hours, and this jerk jumps up on my car because I was taking some paperwork to my dad, who was doing a research project. So I got the guy, threw him off the car, and found out he was one of my professors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to do a drop ad there. It was like one of those oopsies. So it would, and I went to visit a few years ago, and I'm talking to friends that I went to college with, and they went on for their PhDs. I took a different path. I went into professional yacht racing instead, but we all have to go our separate ways, and we have two professors in the family right now as it is. And I figured they didn't need three. So I went sailing. Everybody else went to academia. But anyway, it was atrocious to see how they are not even teaching the truth. One professor, a history professor, and that's my forte, went out and said that America was founded on the ideals of an experiment of big business and how it would work in running a country. And I'm like, it had nothing to do with that. And they're going as far as lying to our students. And how can we make that transition back to the way it was when I was in college? I'm the last of the baby boomers, and it's really, really frustrating to see what they're doing now to academia. If I had a child today,
well.
Go ahead, JD. I don't know what we've lost. Dan.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JD.
No, I can. The way we transition out of that is by actually understanding what the other side stands for and what they're trying to do. And he alluded to the fact that truth isn't taught anymore. And, we say that, but that's truth as we know it. We understand truth and that it exists. But the other side doesn't view the world that way. They think they're socioculturalists. So they believe everyone is a product of their environment. Everything we say, think, feel, do, it's because our environment told us to do it. So if that's what our environment's telling us to do, then everything we perceive is from our environment. So really anything we see that we believe to be the truth is only our environment telling us that's the truth. So they believe truth is subjective. That doesn't exist.
That's right.
And you see that with the Clintons. You see that with the Obamas. You see them just say whatever they want because to them that's their truth and they can justify it that way. And, we know that to be wrong. But, I think there are a lot of people who understand that's wrong but don't understand why they're doing it. And if we understand their mindset, they're easier to fight, they're easier to combat, they're easier to beat. And that's what I bring to the table and going in there.
And you're saying exactly what I've been saying, trying to preach for decades. When you get to the basic foundational principles, you can win a lot of arguments. And we always say on this show, JD, when I lived out in California, when you were running last time, I was supporting you from California, and I'm blessed enough to move to the great state of Texas. And, of course, I don't think anybody doesn't know I'm having a great time here. But in California, when I did the shows, I did them from outside most of the time. And I looked across the street, and there was a pasture and cows and a river and kind of a hill. But here in Texas, we live in a neighborhood. And now I look out and I see roofs of houses everywhere. And I think about those people in those houses. And if I took 100 of those houses, JD, and I went into each home and sat down and had a discussion about basic foundational principles, I don't think it would take very long for me to get them to understand why the federal government can't micromanage, why it's really wise for the states to handle almost everything and let the federal government just handle what they're good at. And the basic principles like that, I think we would find that we've got agreement about 80% of the people.
Mm-hmm.
But if we walked into those same 100 houses and asked them what Benghazi was, the bulk of them would have no clue.
Right.
They don't watch. They're not paying attention to what's going on. They work hard. They get up in the morning. They get the kids off to school. They get off to work. Of course, it's not politically correct to talk about politics or religion around the water cooler at work anymore, so you can't do that. They come home. They fix dinner. They try and figure out some Common Core math with their kids, which doesn't make any sense. And then they've got, they got a little bit of time. They watch a couple of sitcoms. They go to bed. And you and I, JD and Dan and Glenn and everybody on this show and most of our listeners, we live politics. We're addicts. We do politics every day. We know. The bulk of the American people just don't know. But when you explain the basics to them, when you explain it in basic principles and stay away from all the fringe arguments, people generally get it. And that's what your campaign has really been about. You really do explain it. You always go back to the basics, and I think it's the winning game. JD, Dan and Jennifer and I are the hosts this evening, but we've got a couple of special guests here this evening. Two of our hosts from Saturday Symposium with Dan Wilson, Dan's show on Saturday. Gary and Glenn jumped in here, big supporters of yours, of course. So we're going to open our roundtable a little bit bigger this evening and bring them in. So Gary, up there Gary, I can never remember if it's North Dakota or South Dakota. I just know it's up there in the Arctic region of the United States.
Yes, North Dakota, it is the Arctic region. Although today it's not too bad today. It was a heat wave. It came through about 30 degrees above, so almost short sleeve shirt weather out. So anyway, I just want to welcome JD to the show. That's the first time I ever talked to him, and he sounds like he'd be a great young man to be in office, and hopefully sometime I'd like to see him run for federal for national office, because he'd probably be a great Speaker of the House in Washington. He'd keep it in line. So, is there any aspiration that you may be doing that?
No, at this point in my life, this is what I need to be doing. I think running for this House seat, but looking down the road, I don't want to do politics. I don't want to be a politician. I've got things I want to do. I want to run a small business. I want to do all kinds of things like that. So. At this point in my life, I'm ready for it, but I really have no desire to do that later.
Oh, okay. I was just curious about. But anyway, what we need though is leadership. I remember President Reagan. If the people didn't support what he said, he would go to the people. I said, well, I guess we're going to have to educate the people. This is what we need to be doing. And I agree with the schools. We need to actually get them to tell the truth. I think they should be teaching about our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, which is under assault like it's never been under assault before. We need to be teaching that so people can rise up and do the right thing and vote these people who are naysayers out and get people who are in there, some young blood in there to fight for what's right, to lead the people, not rule, but lead the people, That's my take on it. It doesn't have to be complicated. They're turning this, like this healthcare thing is so complicated now. You don't know what's coming down the pike next. There's going to be more restrictions on our freedom. It seems like every year. It's getting so expensive. A lot of people can't afford it anymore. That's got to be repealed. And I say we get back to the competition, freedom, maybe let people do business, healthcare business across state lines. Before it was just you're stuck in the state. If they want to do, do a deal with a healthcare provider in California, great. That's the way it should be. Have competition so we can fight to keep the prices lower. So what do you say on all that?
No, you're absolutely right. I don't think people realize how bad it's gotten with the health care. We actually we're talking to one of our bigger business owners here in the district last night, and he's talking about how as the employer, he has to fill out a form for each individual employee that he has to submit to the IRS, and if he makes a mistake on the form or fills out the wrong form, he faces a fine of $1,000 per form. So he could pay upwards of $100,000 just in fines for for not complying the way the federal government demanded in filling out these forms, and it wouldn't even be intentional. And that's an environment that wastes his time doing that. It puts undue pressure on him. I mean, he could be spending his time hiring people. Instead, he's looking at this healthcare thing and recognizing what a disaster it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great answer. So, and another thing, one more thing, and I'll turn it over to Glenn. But what do you think about bringing God back? I'm all in favor. they're trying to get rid of God, it seems like, or Christianity. And, I believe in God. I was raised as a strict Catholic, and we believed in, like I said, we see all these TV shows. We can't really ban it or nothing, but a lot of these TV shows have a lot of sex on them. It's inappropriate for children to see. And, excuse me, I'm catching a little cold, so forgive me if I have a little problem with my voice. But anyway, I think we need to bring God back. It seems like when you get rid of God, chaos ensues. So that's basically what I got to say about it, and then we'll turn it over to Glenn. So what do you think about all that?
I totally agree, and that's one thing I've been hammering. We've actually been doing, every week we meet with a group of pastors, and we talk to them about my campaign, and we talk to them about the importance of them getting involved. Because honestly, what we're experiencing in our country that's gone wrong is because the pulpit has not done its job. And we need to get these pastors re-engaged, realizing that their purpose is to be involved in politics. Because whether they like it or not, the government's going to get involved in what they're doing. And unless they're fighting, they're going to lose that battle, and that's what we've seen happen. So I'm absolutely on board with you. We need to focus on God again. We need to rebuild this house on rock, and that's what I'm saying.
Well, great answer.
Mm-hmm.
Great answer. Hey, Glenn?
Hello, JD. Great to have you with us, and nice to meet you. I was going to ask you something like Gary anyway about religion, and you kind of pretty much nailed it right there, so I don't have to go on any further with that. But that ties into we had gosh, what was it, last Tuesday or Tuesday before? I think it was 2 weeks ago. We had your field director Charlie Miller with us, and what an amazing inspiration he is for the youth movement. And I wondered if you could tell us how is he been instrumental in getting some of the youth out and whatnot, because that's our future. And as I was going to point out about God, we need to have God first, and we need to get this. You were talking about colleges and the education and whatever, and he's right in the thick of it. I believe he's going through college too. So as helping you, how is he an influence or instrumental with the youth movement, with your campaign and whatnot?
He's drawing youth in. I think more importantly, though, he's showing the older generation that the youth isn't lost.
Exactly.
And I think he's done more to draw in the older generation than anyone would realize. Charles is an awesome guy. And, talking about God, I'm really blessed to have him on my team. Here's a funny story. We were doing an endorsement meeting in one of the counties, and we were going in alphabetical order, and they quarantined us in this room. So Winter Egg, I was the last one to go. And right before I went up, he grabbed my shoulder and he said, "Let me pray for you." So he stood there and he prayed for me before I went up, and I went up, and I think it went pretty well. But what struck me was the fact that he reminded me God needs to be the center of this whole thing, and I'm so happy that I've got a guy working with me who can remind me of that and keeps that, in the front of his mind. So he's a great guy. I'm really excited to have him on our team.
Amen to that. You're right, because I when I was conversing with him a couple weeks ago there, I was, kind of stating that too with him, just being, 20 years old and what he already has had accomplished and what he's on his way, paving the way to do with helping you and this country. It's astronomical, the man that he is, and he is. He's a very strong Christian, and that opens a lot of people's eyes, and it also, like you said, it touches the older people that have been around for quite a while to show them that yes, the youth is getting involved, and to me, I'm excited about that. I think that is just incredible that he's got such a package within only 20 years that it gives me encouragement for our kids' future, that we do have people like him out there, and he can actually be so much instrumental in bringing more of the youth, because it is so much needed, because as we know, our children are our future, and look at the children, look at what we're being, our government's allowing to happen and getting in the way with our values and whatever. So all of this, being as it's tied in with the government and having the government, kind of coming into the homes and you know, basically separating the homes with everything they do through the colleges and through everything else that they have. It's so great to see that he's kept his eyes on the prize. He knows exactly that God is the center of his life, and that, to me, I was just so impressed, and even more impressed with you speaking about him and what he's done for you. I just think this he's great, and I think what you're doing is incredible also. And we need more people to support you, and that's why, as you got people from all over the states here, just on the radio with you, I think everybody's in a different state except for Scott and I, and that's incredible that we have the internet that actually brought us all together. Whereas 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have that. We really didn't have
right.
that social aspect, which really is also not run by the government either, which is really good. This is really, really helping people like yourself that we need to have in there to in the grassroots, people getting joining in with all this. So, to me, it is incredible what you both are accomplishing and have already accomplished. So, good on you, and God bless you both for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think one thing, the fact that he's young is a huge advantage because he's uncorrupted, and he's got that passion that I think a lot of the older generation forgets can even exist, and we see that in him and what he's doing. And I like to think I have that passion too, but I know it's amped up a little bit when he's around, and it's exciting to think that he's there by my side. He's there fighting the fight, and it's kind of funny too talking to him about his experiences at college, and seeing how what I learned is applied to him, and I think he's seeing more and more how sinister the agenda of the left is, and he knew it was there inherently, but I think it's really dawning on him how bad it is, which is fun to see.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'll hand this over to Scott.
Yeah, and Glenn, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I wanted to bring Charlie back up, because Charlie's a good example of what we need. We need a lot of Charlies. And he's doing a great job, but really he's doing what we're supposed to be doing. I've said for a long time, if the American people, if we the people, were lobbying correctly the way we're supposed to, and working towards making sure our government is what we want it to be, we wouldn't have any lobbyists. We wouldn't have to worry about K Street. We wouldn't have to worry about all that stuff going on in Washington, D.C. And Charlie's out there, and he's fighting the fight, and he's pulling a full load on the personal level as well while he's fighting that fight. And there's Charlies all over the country in our millennial age and the younger in the college age specifically, working really, really hard. And I'll tell you, they're having some wins, folks. There is a very hardworking and productive pro-life movement going on in our colleges, and they're winning the battle. They're turning the numbers. And so there's some good things going on as well, and glad we brought up Charlie. We just got not a whole lot longer with you, JD, because we told you we'd keep you only for an hour. We know you got things to do, but we want to get Dan Wilson wanted to finish up with you. But I want to circle around some of the things that we did. I want to remember or remind everybody. My mouth isn't working tonight for some reason. I want to remind everybody to go to the links. They're all there in the show page. Anytime you see JD Winteregg there in the show page, that's a link to his Twitter, to his Facebook. Go share some stuff off of his Facebook. There's some great stuff on there. There's some stuff about Planned Parenthood and all kinds of different things. Go to his Twitter, share it. Go to his website. Again, I'm going to tell you, go check this website out. If you don't check out a lot of websites, let me tell you, this one's one you want to do because it's got some great things. So some of the latest technology in campaigns going on there. And some fun stuff. Great place. So, JD, I want to pass it back to you for one more question from me, and then I want to pass you over to Dan, and then we'll be pretty much up at the top of the hour when we've got to let you go. But as you're coming into this, in the green room, you said you got some momentum going on. And I want you to just kind of give us your last, you're heading towards the finish line. What do you feel what would we need to get out to our listeners? What do you need to say? I'm just going to throw it back to you for wherever you need to take it.
Well, I think you brought it up earlier. I don't need the most money to win this. I just need enough to get my message out. And any help anybody can give, whether it's volunteering time, money, we found very creative ways to do things, as someone like me, and we've done a lot with it. So jdwinteregg.com, they can sign up, they can, volunteer to help, they can contribute. Any of that, a lot of the money we'll do some digital targeting, like you said, 4-tier strategies. They're helping me out, and they are pretty amazing with what they do. So anything to give them more of an opportunity to help is great. So that's really the biggest thing for me that I'd like to convey. I mean, we're all pretty much on the same page, I think, of issues, and it's just that I need help.
That's right. And I want to make sure that John LaRosa, if he hasn't mentioned this to you already, there will be a Team JD slumber party there on Capitol Hill somewhere. So love, and I'm glad you gave 4-tier strategies a shout out. I'm going to do that as well at the end. Let me tell you, John LaRosa and Brad Marston are both personally responsible for a lot of what I do today on even Blog Talk. Because of connections, but of a lot of what I know about how to use Facebook, how to use social media, how to get involved in a campaign, all those things, I learned from those guys. They are the gurus, definitely very smart men, and like you say, they're doing your website, JD, and I'm going to tell you, it's just go there. I just go there, log on, connect with Facebook, connect with Twitter, see what you can do, and check JD out and give him your support. Give him some money if you can. It takes money, man. You got to reach out. JD said it. Facebook is a lousy billboard. It's a great telephone, and you can put all kinds of posts out, and you can do all kinds of things, but it's that contact with the voter that's really going to change this, and that takes money to reach out and contact people. It just does. So give JD some money. I'm going to pass you back over to Dan. We got Dan Wilson back with us, and Dan, go ahead and finish off where you were, and then we'll let JD go, and then we'll continue after that. I'll take it back from you.
Okay, sorry about that, JD. Blog Talk has a bad tendency of dropping me every week. I have no idea what the problem is, but anyway, your district really has a personal touch to me, even though I'm down here in Florida. My better half was born and raised in Hamilton. So she remembers back when downtown Hamilton was a thriving metropolis. I mean, as you said, it was most of the districts employment was right in that area. And today you drive through there and it's a shadow of, what it used to be. And your district in particular is kind of a microcosm of what's going on nationwide, because you have the agricultural, you have the industrial. There was a lot of manufacturing going on in your district, and now that's pretty much all gone. I mean, you used to have 2 large paper mills. You used to have Moses Safe. You used to make the bodies for General Motors cars. You had the casualty insurance, and you had a little bit of everything down there in Hamilton, and now it's a shadow of what it was. And what I was trying to lead to is we need to drop the taxes and EPA regulations in corporate America, and this is the one thing the establishment has really sold us out on. And on the conservative end, we're doing everything we can to bring the country back. And was this one of your driving factors in getting you involved, or I'm not sure where you grew up with, or
one issue I see is that the Republicans and conservatives always are positioned where they feel like they have to defend themselves and their beliefs, and they're always, when you look at budget time, when they're fighting over the budget, they're always having to justify why we need to cut things from the budget. That's frustrating to me, because we need to turn it around. We need to force the other side to justify the expenses in the budget. Because once we do that, the American public will see, our president taking $74 million and going on vacation. They'll see how these expenses are wasted. And, I think that's a way that we can move into lower taxation, tax replacement. That's certainly a driving factor for me. I understand how to do that. I understand how to fight, and not a lot of people do.
Well, that's what we have to do, is we have to get down there and, bring manufacturing back to this country, because they were really the foundation of the middle class. And it's all gone today. And I've been working on my end because, as I said, my better half was born and raised there. And she worked for the casualty. Her husband worked for, what was that big paper printing company? Can't remember the name. I
might have been
drive by
before my time.
This was in the 60s when the town was really jumping. And it's, as I said, it's a shell of what it used to be. And it's so sad to see that, this is happening all over the country. And, we have Obama going after, with the EPA, they have shut down essentially the coal mining of West Virginia, and Kentucky's been hit hard on it, so is Tennessee. And now they're trying to steal land in Oregon and out west, so that the cattle industry can no longer be as productive as it once was. And this is, it's our 10th Amendment that we need to really, really stand up for and take the control back to the states and take it away from the federal government. I mean, this is, and how do you feel about these, and the Second Amendment also, where they're trying to steal our weapons and make it so difficult that it's going to be virtually impossible to own a firearm if things keep going as the way they are. And, the attack on Christianity and our Judeo-Christian foundations, there's so much to change. And we feel that, you're the person to do it because you're young enough, you can fight with the, get out there and fight where the fight that needs to be fought. Right now, Cruz got alienated because he started this, but nobody else was there to support him. And we're praying to God that, everything we can do on our end, please let us know. I mean, we're behind you 400%, and hopefully I'll be able to come out and visit with you next August, because we go up once a year.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I was planning on last year, but something happened and wasn't able to come. But it's you have a wonderful district with a lot of potential, and I'd like to see somebody like you in Congress who can make the changes necessary, and we'll be there fighting for you all the way.
I appreciate that.
Exactly, and we're up at the top of the hour, and we promise we only keep you for an hour. I want to thank you, JD. You know you're always welcome. Anything that we can do for you, like Dan said. It's an important race, JD, because we just need to win this. Because still that win is going to be one last sock in the eye. And you can't say that, but I can. One last sock in the eye to John Boehner. And I don't want to not like John Boehner, and I know you don't want to like John Boehner. But, man, we need people that are going to stand by their principles instead of following the political game. Right. And I always say, and this is how I want to send you away, I always say, Dan and Glenn and Gary on Saturday morning start their show with Red Skelton's Pledge of Allegiance. And in that, Red Skelton says, when it comes to the Republic, from the people to the leaders, not the leaders to the people. And in the biblical illustration of the slave and the master, you're running for the position to be a slave. You're running for the position to be a public servant. You're not running to be a master over the people. John Boehner, I believe, really probably in his first years wanted to be a public servant as well. But he ended up in a position of acting like he was the master. And when we put you in Ohio 08 in that position, and you're sitting there in his chair in Washington, D.C., that's going to be the real difference. And we could argue issues, J.D., for hours, what the differences are between you and John Boehner on this, what you would have done here. But that's what it all comes down to, is the mentality of the man that wants to go to Washington, D.C., and represent the people. And do it right. And that's the difference, folks, between a statesman and a politician. John Boehner will never be a statesman, never be known as a statesman. J.D. Winteregg will go there and be that. So I want to thank you, J.D. Anytime, you are more than welcome, to come on. I'll pass it to you for any goodbyes that you want to do, and we'll let you go.
Yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity. I love talking to you guys. So, hopefully we'll talk before the election again.
That sounds like a plan.
Most definitely. And again, one more time, folks, as JD's leaving us, go to the website, jdwinteregg.com. Check it out. Join, log in, volunteer, contribute if you can, please, and get out there and share him. I'll tell you, one thing you can do on Facebook is you can search My Friends That Live in Ohio, and you can tag those people. And really make a difference. About time for me to do that again. It's been a while since I've done that. If you want to target some people, because when you post on Facebook, only a fraction of your friends actually end up seeing it. So want to make sure that you got the ability to target. Give JD some help. This is the last push. We want to see him go to Washington, D.C. And if he goes to Washington, D.C. this next year, it'll be a wonderful end of about 4 years worth of a run for JD and for a lot of us, running behind him as fast as we can, trying to help give him some wind. So everybody, please go to the website, go to the Facebook, go to the Twitter, share some information. Go to the website. You can find some of the articles. Different things. You can also find some articles about JD at Joe for America. You just type in Google JD Winteregg and Joe for America, and we've got a handful of articles out there talking about different things that you can share, as well as some other articles that are out there by different places. So, guys, what a great show. I always enjoy interviewing candidates, and Glenn, you kind of touched on it. Technology has given us some incredible tools. And to me, this is one of the most incredible things, is to be able for all of us to get together, like Glenn said, in different states, and have a conversation with somebody that it looks like very well could go to Washington, D.C. and represent us. And to have the opportunity to have just dialogue, some questions, the ability to give some support together for somebody that we really all believe in. There's not one of us on this show tonight that has not known the name of J.D. Winteregg and has not been rooting for him for a long time. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do that. And my favorite thing to do is to interview the candidates. And I'll tell you, the candidates that I really love are the state elections and the small elections. We had John Souza running for what was he running for? Not commissioner. He was running for just the board, the county board. There in California, had him on Dave Souza, a few times, and had a great conversations with him and some local candidates. Some of I think the smaller you get, the more fun I have. Shelley Milne running for Board of Supervisors out in California. Those are always kind of fun. We've interviewed some state senators. We've interviewed some senators and House of Representatives. We've had a really good time being able to reach out like that and have that contact with people that are going to represent us. And I don't live in Ohio 08, but J.D. Winteregg in Mass up there is going to be representing me as a citizen of the United States of America. And it's a great tool. I'm glad that we've got the ability, and it's why we use it for this, and it's why we cheer our candidates on a little bit. I think it's a great forum to help give some encouragement to the candidate. That's why I like all the positive comments, because it's not easy running for office. It's an incredibly large sacrifice, especially if you're married. Herman Cain learned that, the real hard way. It can get really, really brutal. It's a huge sacrifice for a candidate, and I believe it's important for us to give them a shot in the arm and say, you're doing great, we're right behind you, we're supporting you. I believe that. I believe it's also important to be able to talk to them and have the conversation. It always gives the candidate another opportunity to continue to practice his skills of communication. There's just all kinds of reasons. And the big thing is I've always enjoyed the fact that we can give a candidate an opportunity to speak without being riddled down to a little soundbite. And let them just talk, and I believe it's been a wonderful thing over the years. I've had some incredible interviews. Us here on Contending for Truth Radio on this show, as well as Saturday Symposium, and previous shows as well. It's always a good time. All right, folks, let's change gears. The same reason why we want J.D. Winteregg to win in Ohio 08 is the same reason we want a very positive outcome in the 2016 presidential election this next November. And most of the problem candidates, most of the candidates that I'd be, oh no, not that one, please, are all at the bottom of the dish, like sediment in the bottom of water. If you look at Real Clear Politics, look at the Republican nomination, and you've got Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, Rubio and Carson, and they take up the bulk of the voters. And everybody else is literally laying at the bottom, the lines all crossed over each other. You can't tell who's who. It's just all like sediment in the bottom. You got those four at the top. And I'll tell you what's in the bottom that's important to me are all the candidates that are just like John Boehner. Now, you might not like Donald Trump, but I'm going to tell you, he's not going to play the same game that John Boehner played. You may not like Cruz. He's going to try and be a statesman. He's going to try and do the will of the people. You may not like Carson. You may not like Rubio. And Rubio, I think Rubio will be sucked into the establishment further than he already has been. But those four are what we've got. And going into this, I really think for the first time, folks, we've got a real opportunity to not have an establishment nominee. Mm-hmm. And I've been saying for a long time, for those who are addicted to politics, this is heroin. Right now, what's going on in our primary. It's been an incredibly interesting primary season. And I want us to kind of talk about our favorite parts of it because we're into 1 week from Iowa. Next week on American Sovereignty Radio, we will know who won Iowa. So this is it. We're getting ready to change gears on this primary. The primary season started back in 1862 when Jeb Bush's great-great-great-great-grandfather predicted that he was going to be the nominee. And ever since then, Jeb Bush was the presumptive nominee up until the beginning of this year when Scott Walker all of a sudden dominated everything. And boy, the first thing I said is I really like this guy, but boy, he's peaking early. In fact, Jennifer, you and I and Ken, I think, talked about that a little bit. He's peaking too early. But he had some really good strength, and he maintained that lead and gave Jeb Bush fits for a long time. I thank Scott Walker for that. He was kind of the precursor to what Donald Trump was going to do and Ben Carson was going to do. And at that point, when Scott Walker entered the race, the prophecy that Jeb Bush was going to be the nominee, it was ended, and we found out that wasn't really going to be the case. And then, we've had a totally different primary season. And those of us that are involved in politics, and not only, but the last couple of primaries that I really paid real close attention to. I've always paid attention to them somewhat. I always knew who was on the ballot. But Herman Cain, of course, brought me in and got me a little bit more active. But in the past, we've always had a certain pattern that always ends up in the same spot. And the pattern was this. You've got a nominee who is the establishment nominee, the Bob Dole, the McCain, the Romney, the Jeb Bush, and they enter the primary season, and there's a large handful of people who are not the type of John Boehner type of politician, not an establishment type politician, somebody that wants to be a public servant, not a master. And you got a bunch of them, and they all fight throughout the primary season, and they all have a peak. They all have their week. You know what I mean? It's their 15 minutes. And they peak, and then something happens. Somebody throws something at them, and they drop. And then the next one has theirs. The next one has theirs. Herman Cain had the largest one in the last primary season. And then when you get to the end, everybody's beat each other up, and everybody's out of money. And at the end, the establishment candidate, who has the support of the establishment's got plenty of money, and he just goes all on as they destroy each other onto the nomination. That has not been the pattern at all of this primary season. And Donald Trump, in a big way, Ben Carson in the same way, and Scott Walker at the very beginning changed that. They changed that pattern. Scott Walker on accident, but Scott Walker kept Jeb Bush from getting a good run and a good lead off from the starting gate. He knocked him over. Jeb Bush was equal with Scott Walker in Florida, in his home state, where he was a two-term popular governor. Scott Walker started the fall of Jeb Bush, and the establishment win that would come from that in the Republican primary. And Donald Trump jumped in. And Donald Trump has been the CEO of the primary season. And he has negotiated our way. And he has negotiated all of the establishment candidates to sediment in the bottom of the polls. And him and Ted Cruz are battling it out. And I'm going to tell you that battle is on purpose, and it is calculated. And if you don't recognize that, look a little bit closer. And I guarantee you, Ted Cruz is ecstatic with the direction that it has come out as it's gone forward, this little battle between him and Donald Trump. And we're not going to get into all the reasons, but it is working well. And there is not one establishment candidate who has enough time at this point to gain the momentum that it would take to win this nomination. We are not going to have an establishment candidate. Rubio has got a slight chance, but not much, of winning. This is either going to come down to, and I don't think Ben Carson's got a chance, although he's still upholding a whole lot higher than sediment in the bottom of the glass. It's going to be either Ted Cruz or it's going to be Donald Trump as we go into this. And, you might, I'm going to tell you, Ted Cruz's second choice for half the people is Donald Trump, and for half the people that choose Donald Trump, their second choice is Ted Cruz. So everybody better be nice to each other. I'm going to tell you. It's coming down to this, though. We're not going to have an establishment candidate. Now, I've got reasons why I'm really concerned about Donald Trump. I've got my issues with him as a president. I want him to be the vice presidency. I want him to be I want him to be that 101st vote in the Senate, and I want to see him on the Senate floor, turning those into a reality TV show. And I want to see him down there when they want to go spend $3 billion on the mating habits of gay cockroaches. I want Donald Trump in there making a lot of noise. That's what I want to see. We go through this. We're here. We're at the beginning of the end of this primary season, and we're going to blink our eyes and we're going to be in the general election. But I want to pass it around the room for everybody's comments on 2016. We're here now. We're in 2016. It's flying by quick. We're having a great time. Jennifer Montrose, I'm going to throw it to you. We'll pass it around the room the same way. Jennifer to Dan, Dan to Gary, Gary to Glenn, and then we've got, 45 minutes, and we'll see how far that takes us. So, Jennifer.
Well, I'll tell you. My thoughts on 2016, we need somebody that's going to take a stand and is not going to put up with the game playing and the BS that comes from foreign nations and even from those locally in our own United States. I will have to say my hat's off to Donald J. Trump for taking a stand to support the veterans and not go to that dog and pony show of a debate and allow that money to be used to promote Fox News when all he asked was that they give some of the proceeds to those veterans. And I think that Wounded Warriors, I think that was a great idea. But, all indications are that they were fixing to turn this into another attack on a particular candidate, not talk about the issues. And so he decided to go and throw his own town hall meeting, which I think is fabulous. And what that says to me is that, I'm reading a lot that where, we've got American citizens that are very upset with what's going on in today's society with government overreach. And they're looking for somebody that's going to take a stand and going to stand up to the bullies in America and those abroad, and you can like me or hate me for saying this, but we need somebody that is not going to be bullied by North Korea, that's not going to be bullied by the Muslims in Carr. It's time. And I've been following the tragedy that has taken place in Oregon tonight. People have been arrested. One person died. And it didn't have to go down the way it did, and so, I'm getting reports of things. Some of it's confirmed, some of it not, but it's a sad situation, and I'm afraid it's not going to go down well. But, so I just ask everyone out there that's listening tonight, please keep everybody in Oregon in your prayers. Prayers is the best thing, and we need that for our nation. And I am praying that we have people that will keep their eyes and ears open when it comes to 2016 election. When they go to the polls and vote in the primary, let them vote their values, and help people to open their eyes and ears to see the real truth, not the propaganda that's being spewed out there. And I'm seeing it, I'm telling you, between one candidate to another, all these volunteers that are attacking one another and name-calling and acting like 5-year-old children because you support one candidate and don't support theirs, and it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, I can tell you this, America needs to wake up. If we get Hillary Clinton in office or Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, because that's the last thing I was told, another thing I was told is what if after, Hillary should win this election and then they decide to indict her and then Joe Biden steps in. We can't allow that to happen. We can't even allow that to be an option that the Democrats even win this. We have got to come out in full force. And I don't care, when Sheriff Joe Arpaio comes out and endorses Donald Trump, when you have Jerry Falwell that comes out and endorses Donald Trump, I have to question some of the naysayers out there because, here's a guy down in Arizona who's been kicking butt and taking names and, following the Constitution as a constitutional sheriff, and he sees something in this man, this businessman, so, and if Cruz is your guy, do all you can to fight for him in the primary and go vote. But when the general election comes around, we need everybody hands on deck. Go to the polls and vote. Do not sit at home. We cannot afford to allow any conservative to sit at home this election cycle, or we will have another 2012 and another 4 years that will be a tragedy, and we cannot have that. Dan?
Jennifer, Dan, real quick, I want to poke in here because I think this is important and to add to what you just said. Going forward, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz have had a lot of meetings. If you don't think that Ted Cruz has not given Donald Trump an education on the Constitution, you got another thing coming. And I want you to remember, these two are going forward, and I'm going to tell you, they're going to be together in the end. And amen to everything you said, Jennifer, because we got to all get along, because I'm going to tell you, it's not an establishment candidate. That's a big piece of this. Dan Wilson.
I agree with you, Scott. Right now, Trump has answered everything that his opponents have brought up. We have heard some people saying that he is not truly Christian, yet he gets the evangelical endorsement. He's gotten Sheriff Joe, and Sheriff Joe is almost he's a icon of this country. And he has some of the best endorsements in this country. And as you were saying, Trump and Cruz have had many, many, many conversations. In fact, they just had one last week. Now, we obviously don't know exactly what was said, but we know there was a contact for about 45 minutes. So they are still going and making a plan. Now, if you think, or if anybody out there thinks that what's going on with Trump is accidental, that he just says things off the top of his head, you got a lot of lessons to learn when it comes down to big business. Trump does everything for a reason. And even his comments that he makes that creates some controversy has given him so much free advertisement, and it's kept him in the limelight. And what he did the other day with telling Fox to stick her where the sun don't shine was one of the greatest things in the world, especially when he talked about how much money of his own that he's giving to the Wounded Warrior Project, and other veterans groups. And there was one thing I want to also kind of put another little push for when it comes down to veterans groups is Kaya Kyle, Chris Kyle's wife, just started an organization to help those coming back from war who are suffering from PTSD. PTSD, sorry, and it's called the Chris Kyle Frog Association, and it's specifically for those suffering from PTSD. And just go to chriskylefrog.com and please give what you can, because we owe it to our veterans for making the sacrifices they made. And with when we look at Donald Trump, and people think that he's a little flighty and he's after his own benefits. Well, people, let me tell you this much. Trump is in that economic category that by becoming president of the United States, he loses money. And he is not going to gain any more contacts than he already has. There is nothing for him to gain on a personal basis or with his corporation. And this is what people need to get out of their head, is that he's not going to make any changes for just so he could build more buildings. Trust me, he's building them faster than you can imagine. Right now they have 3 major projects going on that are multi-billion-dollar projects being run by his children. And he's passing the buck over to his kids to run his company. But you're looking back that, you cannot, if you think that he's doing this for himself, for personal gain, you're sorely mistaken. And Donald has said, and in the past, he's endorsed the Clintons. He's endorsed whoever would serve his needs back in those days. Yet you forget that he was a big player during the Reagan administration for Reagan. And he only does what he has done over the years to help out his company. And now he's seeing that our country is in dire need for a very strong individual. And he has a lot of the characteristics that Reagan had. Although he's a little more, by being a little further out from the normal political groups, he is able to bring over constituents from the Democratic Party, and he's bringing in a lot of independents. And he may not stand for everything that we stand for. But you know something? There are times when you need that bulldog to come in there and blow a hole so that future conservatives can take the ball and run all the rest of the way. And a perfect example of Donald Trump is George S. Patton. Now, George S. Patton, when it came down to politics, flunked terribly. But you know something? He was able to move mountains. He was able to do the impossible. He took a half of the Third Army during the Battle of the Bulge, when he heard that the 101st Airborne was completely surrounded by 7 Panzer divisions. with no hope of escape and running out of materials, and they knew they only had less than a day to survive, he moved a third of the Third Army, took them out of an active combat zone, disengaged them, moved them 100 miles. And this is in 1944, people. And he had them re-engaging with 7 Panzer divisions within 24 hours. They can't do that today. Patton did it. And Patton was almost court-martialed 3 separate times. When he first got started his career in World War I, he was put in charge of one of the first tank divisions. And by himself, he blew right through the Ziegfeld line, and he was 20 miles into past the enemy lines, and he was, if they allowed him, he was going straight to Berlin, and he was going to capture the Kaiser on his own. And this is kind of what Donald Trump is. He's that bull who's going to blow through and make the hole for the rest of us conservatives to make the changes. But before we can make the changes, we have to get rid of the establishment. And Cruz is a perfect example also of how one individual can't do it. So you need a president who is like a bull moose, who's going to run over everything, and the rest of the people, the leaders throughout the world, know that you are not going to push Donald Trump around, because he has a record of whoever goes and stands up against him loses. And he can do it without having to engage our armed forces. And this is the benefit. And
Turn all the lights out. I'm in the living room. Turn all the lights out. I'm in the living room.
I am getting more and more behind Donald Trump, even though he doesn't stand for everything that you and I stand for. I mean, the rest of us, we agree. But he got the evangelical vote. Now, when you get an endorsement from Farrell on the evangelical side, you know something? These people don't give out those types of endorsements easily. And Donald Trump just said on the news just earlier today, when he was being interviewed, if there was any financial dealings in the background or anything like that. And the fact is, he never gave a penny to any of these groups. He never did anything other than be himself. And these people who are endorsing him see something in Donald Trump that many of the conservatives are failing to see. And this is where we need to open our eyes and see that he is a man that is, if he's getting these type of endorsements, he has something, that's going in his on his side, and we need to open our eyes. And we cannot, and let me repeat this again, we cannot make the same mistake that we did 4 years ago. And anybody who refuses to back whoever wins these primaries. Well, you know something? You can take credit on the loss of our republic. Because the only way we're going to win this election is by solidarity. That's each and every conservative supporting whoever wins the primaries. And you need to get off your high horse and stop saying that, I can't vote for this guy because he's not exactly what I want, or he's not behind the candidate I want. Well, you know something? It's looking more and more like Trump or Cruz is going to win. More than likely Trump. Everything is pointing towards him as the probable winner. And if anybody refuses to vote for him, well, you know something? You aren't a conservative because you don't care for our country. And we need somebody, he's an outside person who can break this political crap that's going on in Washington and shadow it. So we can come in on the conservative end and we can actually take control. Even though Donald may not be a perfect conservative, well, let me ask each and every one of you out there in Radio Land, who is? We all have our faults, and we all have there was only one person on this earth who didn't have any faults, and I'm sorry, he's not walking this earth right now. And it was Jesus Christ who was the only person who can say that he was perfect. And none of us are going to live up to that. So you're going to have to take Donald's imperfections, and you're going to have to take a chance and take a leap of faith, because there's a lot of very powerful people out there on our side who believe in him. And don't you think that you should start listening to people like Sheriff Joe or Jerry Falwell and Sarah Palin? I mean, he has some very big names behind him. And I think it's time we all started rallying. And with that, I am going to pass it all the way north to North Dakota.
Well, you said that very well. I agree with you there, Dan. Yes, we got to get behind our candidates. And I'm going to add this, too, because if we don't, this is probably going to be the end of our country. We're going to see our republic go away, but then you're going to see chaos follows. We need to vote no matter who on our side gets in. It looks like Donald Trump will get in. The thing is, the media, the left-wing media, turn it off, folks. Don't even listen to them because they're not honest. Turn it off. Listen to the candidates. I wish we could get Donald Trump in one of our shows and we could just let him open up and let him speak. Not interrupt him, just let him speak. Because a lot of places they put him on TV, the interviews are edited out and they put on the most controversial things candidates say. Then, of course, knowing the left-wing media, they're going to put stuff up there that makes them look bad. And, of course, the Democrats, they put stuff up that makes them look good. Because I don't even call them left-wing media. I call it the Democrat media because that's what they are, Democrat media. Because they are out to destroy any conservative. And what they try to do, they want to get the weakest Republican in, the one that's the most liberal who will sell out. Donald Trump doesn't need money. Dan said that too. He doesn't need money, so he's not going to sell out. He can't be bought off. and that's another big plus, you know. And of course, yes, no one's perfect. No one is perfect, and we cannot expect perfection because all of us on this green earth have imperfections, you know. And like I said, I'm going to vote for him. I'm definitely got my vote, and I'll give him my support. Now, if there's things down the road, if he does, we disagree with, yeah, we can disagree with, you know. And that's the thing, being American, we can do that. And we also need to get a good, strong conservative Congress, both the House and the Senate. And I think they ought to start looking at some of these agencies, like the IRS and the Department of No Energy. I call it that because they don't produce any energy. They just regulate it to death. The Department of No Education, because they regulate that to death. And the EPA, which regulates businesses out of business. We got to start looking into them, maybe either weakening them or getting rid of them altogether. And I would say that would be a start, because even when our side gets in, we have all these agencies still trying to regulate us out of business or trying to raise taxes or do whatever they're trying to do, you know. And I think that would be another start. And with that, I don't know how much time we have left, but I'll turn it over to Glenn to give him a chance to speak. So take it away there, Glenn.
Well, thank you very much there, Gary. And you all make some great points, you know. Some of them we haven't even really discussed, so it's great to have this round table, because some of them have been brought out that the listeners haven't even actually heard probably. And I think a couple more that I may have to add is, you know, a lot of people look at Donald Trump and they say, okay, look at the end result. Yeah, he's got $10 billion. You know, he's a good builder. You know, he's building things all over the place. Well, the thing is it's not. You have to go in and look at the details of how that became the way he is, how he became the way he is, and he surrounds himself. You know, Scott mentioned earlier. And he's mentioned it many times, and we have, about Donald Trump being the perfect CEO for the GOP, and you know, and he's not just that, but the reason he is that is because of what he's done with him. His dad taught him, you know, from a little boy, just like Donald Trump is teaching his kids, and that's why they're in charge of his business while he's out playing the politician game. That he doesn't really want to, but America needs him to, so therefore it's turned him into needing to and wanting to. But the reason he is doing what he's doing is because the people he surrounds himself, you know, he's got key people that he is going to be bringing with him, and already has them on board to when he becomes a nominee and becomes the president. He already has these people that are backing him up already. He's got people in his businesses and all the different countries and whatever he's been tapped into. He's got a lot of key people. That's the building that he has. Before he built anything, he had to have some solid people around him. And these people, like we haven't brought up tonight, Phyllis Schlafly. You know, she is an icon herself. You know, Mrs. Conservative herself. You know, she's endorsed him. You know, Sheriff Joe. I mean, you know, Mr. Constitution. You know, like this guy. There's Sarah Palin. You know, we brought up all these names, and these are key people that, you know, other people, you know, are starting to take a look, and they're wow. You know, look at all these people that are endorsing him. You know, even. Like you mentioned, Jerry Falwell Jr. You know, these are evangelicals. He's got people from every different kinds of walks of life, and you know, all of these people, what they have in common too, is not just that they're conservative, but they are Christian. They are Christian people. So if people don't think he's conservative or don't think he's Christian, I mean, my gosh, you think he's going to fool all these people? Come on, there's no way. So therefore, you know, he's built up his business, his enormous business with a lot of key people. He didn't do it by himself, but he has the thing between his ears, the brain, that actually was able to handpick these people and had them even come to him, and it built and built and built. And that's what he has to offer for America. Is he going to do everything that we all want him to do? No one ever has, and no one ever will. You know why? Because not everyone is following Jesus 100%, because you can't, because they're not perfect. Only Jesus was perfect, as Dan mentioned. There's no way we're going to have everything we want, but I'll tell you one thing, with a Donald Trump and even having the Ted Cruz, we're going to have way more than we've had since Ronald Reagan. And, I'll even go even further, because we're in different times. Scott mentioned many, many times before, which we haven't talked about tonight, and that is Ronald Reagan. When he walked into office, he had 3 or 4 things that he was either for or opposed to that were not really true Christian, or not true conservative. Well, maybe some of them weren't true Christian either, but they weren't true conservative values. Whereas Donald Trump has every one of those, and maybe he's lacking in some things that Reagan had. But I'll tell you, the times we're in right now, you look at Ronald Reagan, he wasn't for the Second Amendment, and he was the gay marriages and stuff like that. He wasn't, he wasn't for all these things that Donald Trump is for, or that the conservative movement is for now. So can you imagine bringing Ronald Reagan 35 years later, 30 years later, whatever, into this? And people were against him before he got in. People were so against him, just like Donald Trump. But look what he did when he got in there, even though he had some things that people were against. So you see, folks, Dan is right, Scott is right. We're not going to have anyone that's perfect for the job, perfect person doing the job, but we're going to have the perfect we're going to have a perfect situation compared to what we've had since Reagan, because really we haven't had anything really great to look at since Ronald Reagan, and which is a shame when you consider that's the 80s. And another thing you have to understand too is Donald Trump was very, very much a key supporter of Ronald Reagan. And I personally, my wife and I, my amazing, beautiful wife Lisa and I have had the privilege and to meet and talk with Roger Stone on a few occasions in person and even in Facebook. And, he's given us some information that a lot of people don't know. And that is that, that's how he met. Roger Stone met Donald Trump through Ronald Reagan. So all these people that are out there saying that, he's all liberal, he's all Democrat. Well, you know what? You don't. People are making these. They're really assuming a lot of these things because they don't know that he was supporting a lot of conservative. He never, even Glenn Beck last week made a stupid statement saying that Donald Trump voted for Obama. He didn't vote for Obama. He never voted for Obama. I mean, he was supporting Mitt Romney for one. And he was also supporting and giving campaign money to John McCain. So then later on, a few days later, Glenn Beck, retracted that statement, took both of his feet out of his mouth. They're still back there because he made some more stupid things he said. But there's people out there that are given all these false accusations against Donald Trump. And you know what the thing is Donald Trump, as we all know, comes out of all these smelling like roses. You know why? Because these people that are trying to slam him don't have their facts right, and then people come out with the real facts, and it makes them look bad at the same time as building Donald Trump up. So you see, Donald Trump does not mind the controversy because he knows that people are out there going to slam him. That goes with the territory of what you're doing. It happened to Ted Cruz as much in the last few weeks too. So they know the territory that they're in, and they're okay with it because they know that people are going to be against them for wrong reasons, and it's going to expose the person that makes up all this crap more than it has anything to do with Donald Trump. So getting back to the building of everything is he's going to bring in a lot of people like the Tara Icahn. All these people are going to be doing a lot of the dealings for him. That's what a good CEO does. They're able to delegate responsibilities, and yes, it all comes on his shoulders. But when you have a lot of key people running the ship in the right direction, you're not going to have things. It's not going to be a weight on your shoulder because you trust in all of these people, and that's why he is a good CEO, as Scott always mentions. And it's so true, and people have to understand that is part and a very huge part of what he represents is being a CEO. He is one that has leadership qualities and had them since he was pre-teen. Since he was pre-teen, he's had these because his father was amazing. So, he's 69 years old, will be 70 should he become the president. Well, that's a lot of years, folks, to be able to know how to run something. And believe me, he's made a lot of mistakes. And anyone that knows to be successful, you've had to make a lot of mistakes. You don't just get there and do everything right the first time all the time. So he's been able to pick these weeds around, and everything else has grown up, and that's the problem, is people are looking at him in the wrong light, I think. I don't think they're looking at his ability to get the right people to help. And he's also got a whole stage full of people he can pick from to be in his cabinet, along with other people that he has outside of that. So he is in the best position because of his age and his experience and his connections. And he's a CEO. And on that note, I'll hand it over to Scott.
Hey, well, amen. And there's a lot of reasons. And I'll tell you, we got some Trump supporters on that listen, and we got some Cruz supporters. And we got some of them that see, how it works well together, and there's some that hate the other side. And let me tell you, Ted Cruz supporters, without Donald Trump in this primary season, Ted Cruz is not where he is right now. Period. He's just not. When we went into this season, we went in with the same hurdles we've had in the past to getting a Ted Cruz past the finish line. And I'm going to tell you, as we go forward, it's going to be really interesting. And I've been saying for a long time, they've been working together. They've had a lot of meetings together. If you don't think Donald Trump is getting more conservative as the days go on, just like Ronald Reagan was, with the time that he has spent with Ted Cruz, and I'm going to tell you, what you're seeing right now in the media is all show. And it's great. It's organized. It's negotiated. And I love every minute of it. Let me tell you, this is what you want. If I were Ted Cruz, this is exactly the snowball fight I would want. And I want you to picture this. I want you to picture Donald Trump on the pitcher's mound, and I want you to picture Ted Cruz at whatever that is, their home base, with a baseball bat. Now, I know the people that know me the best are going, Scott's going into a Sports Illustration. We're all in big trouble. The last few weeks, they warned us. They told us ahead of time, where, the fight's coming, folks. This has all been choreographed. The fight's coming, didn't they? They told us Iowa's coming. And there was this little Donald Trump pitched one at Ted Cruz, one that he needed out, really. The discussion whether he's eligible. That he needed to be able to answer that now, and not during the middle of the general election. and then you had some clerical problems. You don't want it coming out later. You want it coming out now. And so Donald Trump's been tossing these. Ted Cruz has been knocking him out of the ballpark, and it's been working very, very well for Ted Cruz. Believe me, we're watching the numbers continue to rise for Ted Cruz through all of this. The other thing it does, it takes away the attention and keeps Ted Cruz from having to battle Marco Rubio, who is on his tail. We don't want Ted Cruz battling Marco Rubio. We don't want anybody even talking about Marco Rubio. We want Ted Cruz to be looking forward, not looking back, and Donald Trump enables him to do that. And I'm going to tell you, we've known for a long time, we've known since the beginnings of this year, that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump have been spending a lot of time together, working hard. Donald Trump already announced that Ted Cruz would be his VP. And I'm a firm believer that Ted Cruz wins, he picks Donald Trump as his VP. But the two of them going forward, I'm going to tell you, folks, if you're hating Donald Trump on issues, man, I understand. I really do. There are some issues that I've had some issues with him. But here's how I view Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not one of us. He is not a Glenn. He is not a Jennifer. He is not a Dan. He is not a Scott. He is not a Gary. He doesn't spend the last 30 years of his life every day waking up and thinking about politics and being involved in politics. He's been a businessman. I think he's been one of those guys in the House that we could sit down. Now, I think he knows what Benghazi, and I think he knows, relative current events. But as far as a lot of the details and understanding, as Ted Cruz understands, the constitutional crisis that we're in, the importance of the big difference between state government and federal government, I think these are things that Donald Trump really has never even thought about. He's got basic conservative principles, but going forward, he hasn't been a grassroots activist like we have. These aren't his issues. But what he does know how to do is he knows how to negotiate, and he knows how to be an executive, which is what that office is all about. I'm a firm believer he's getting more and more concerned. And he said it, 10, 20 years ago. I wasn't as concerned about the Second Amendment. Now, no, nothing. He says we're in a different time. They're trying to take our guns away. No more. And I think a lot of people were that way. I was that way 20 years ago. A Second Amendment issue, we didn't really have anybody really trying to take our guns or talking about taking our guns. And I think we were a little bit more or less lackadaisical. One of the big problems we've ran into. But these things that Donald Trump is throwing at Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz is knocking him out of the ballpark, is only helping Ted Cruz. And it is only helping to continue to keep the Fiorinas, the Kasichs, the Christies, the Jeb Bushes down at the bottom. And in these next few primaries, see things go forward, you got to remember, when you're looking at the polls, always remember this. Carson, Trump, and Rand Paul have incredible ground games. So if you're looking at the polls and you see Jeb Bush, and he's sitting a point or two ahead of Rand Paul in the Ohio primary that is coming up, you can bump Rand Paul up, and you can bump Carson up, and you can bump Cruz up, because that ground game is key in these early primaries, because it's freezing cold up there. It is not easy to get people out to do this, and you have got to have an incredible ground game that's ready that day to do the job. And Ted Cruz and Ben Carson have had a game going for 2 years, and let me tell you, Rand Paul's had one that's been going about 12 years now, and he inherited his dad's ground game, and he has demolished it, but it's still going to be pretty strong. So you've got those three, and Ted Cruz has got an incredible ground game, folks, and Donald Trump hasn't needed one. He really just hasn't needed one, which has been one of his, the success stories of all this. So as we go into this, I'm a firm believer, folks, that we got another chance, but we got to get it all together. I've got some issues with Donald Trump, and I really don't want to be president. I want to be vice president. I really believe that's the job where you put a negotiator, is in the vice president's office, and let's get some of this nonsense that on Capitol Hill done. But either way, I will be happy. Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump. It will never be the same. No matter who wins on the other side, nobody, absolutely nobody, can spend enough money that Donald Trump can't. We win the money game at that point. And I really think we win the argument. Basically what Donald Trump has done is he has continued to punch political correctness. And, we don't always like I don't always like how he says it. I really don't. But, man, he just reaches out and he says it. And he doesn't worry about it. We would always tell a campaign or a candidate, don't say that. No, you would never say that. But Donald Trump's saying it anyways, and he's doing it on purpose to punch out political correctness. Political correctness, the First Amendment was designed for the things that Donald Trump says, not the things that Scott Osborne says. I try really hard not to use foul language and to talk kindly, and I would never say some of the things Donald Trump says about other people. I would never do that. But I'm going to tell you, the First Amendment wasn't designed for what I say. It was designed for what Donald Trump says. Mm-hmm. And that's so important, folks. They are beating up on political correctness. If we beat political correctness, then we the people can do the job of fighting the issues. We can fight the issues on turning our welfare system into a fishing net instead of a safety net, and we can get back to real race relations and solving any issues that are there, and we can take care of the Second Amendment. We can take care of all of these things if political correctness is out of the way. And, man, that's the job that Donald Trump has done, and I'll be forever thankful. Whether I agree with him or not or worry about him or not sometimes, and I think a lot of it show, I think he would be a different man standing in the Oval Office dealing with foreign affairs. I don't think he would have the same personality as he does on stage. He's excellent at doing what he's done. He's spent less than anybody else on the campaign trail, folks. He has literally spent less than anything else on the campaign trail. And I'm going to tell you, Fox News, Donald Trump was right to not show up. And Megyn Kelly did make a wrong move. Because you see, what Megyn Kelly did was she basically called him misogynistic. And I'm going to defend Donald Trump for bad remarks, but he is more than happy to talk that way to men and women. Now, if he went around only saying bad things about women, you could call him misogynistic. But he was an equal opportunity snowball thrower. And Megyn Kelly turned it into a woman's issue. And that was wrong. That was the leftist side. That's what the left does. She was more than willing, more than able to hit him. You say some things that are pretty mean, Donald Trump. That would have been fair. That would have been fair, folks. But she didn't. She turned it into the war on women, and that was disgraceful. Because it isn't. Donald Trump's not a misogynist. He says bad things about men and women. And he uses a sometimes, and that boy, as his friend, I would say to him, watch your language. My friends know that. Watch how you speak. But I'm going to tell you, folks, it's going to get interesting. This next week on Contending for Truth Radio on American Sovereignty, we will have the results by the time we all come back together again in Iowa. And I've made some predictions in different areas, and I really firmly believe, excuse me, having the same problem that you're having, Gary. I am a firm believer that as we go forward, that it is going to be Donald Trump taking Iowa, and unless Ted Cruz can really just continue the momentum he's got. Ted Cruz has got a really good of winning Iowa right now because of ground game and because of a lot of different factors. The spread that you see in the polls is going to be different when people actually show up for a number of foundational reasons. I think as we go on to New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada, I think Donald Trump and Ted Cruz take first and second place all the way through those four. And at that point knock the majority of those people that are sediment at the bottom of the polls out. And they'll coalesce, some of them, around one other candidate. But I think by the time we get to March 1st, folks, when we have those 15 primaries, if those two run those primaries all the way through, I think you see that we're going to one or the two at the end. And I think as we get a week out from the primaries beginning, I think that's what is being shown. So I want to thank everybody. We're coming up to the top of the hour. It was a great show. Always love having J.D. Winteregg. Let me tell you, he's a good guy.
It was fun.
He sacrificed his career so that we could get rid of those like John Boehner. And he deserves to win. He really deserves to win. He has worked very, very hard. And we went really past time, didn't we? I was just yakking away out there, not in front of the studio. But we give me your support, folks. JDWinteregg.com. If you're listening right now, you're listening in archive because we've gone off the air live. So you're listening in archive, and thank you for listening so long through our 2-hour show. But go there and help JD out however you can, whatever it is. Ground game. If you're in Ohio and you're listening to this, please give JD a day a week. A few hours a day a week. Give him some time. Maybe you can go put some signs out, or maybe you can go knock some doors or make some phone calls for him, or make contacts, folks, because it's so important that we do that. We got some great things coming up on Contending for Truth Radio. I know Dan, you, Glenn, and Gary have got some guests coming up. You've been keeping the guests going. We want to remind everybody Saturday Symposium at 11 o'clock Texas time, 12 o'clock Florida time, and, of course, that's 9 o'clock. What's that other state out there? We don't even know anybody out there in California. On Friday, on Ladies Bible Class, it is going to be a fun day, and you don't want to miss it. We're going to have a ladies' Bible class. They're going to be gathered in California, but we're going to have some people gathered here in Texas as well. Ken and Beth Fox, who used to own the home that we have now, are going to be coming over and sitting with me for ladies' Bible class. So I will have what we call a studio audience, which always makes it nice to have somebody there, right there with you. During summer, I have my nieces there with me, but during the school year, they are are not there. I'm all by myself. So it's going to be a great time. We just covered David and Goliath last Friday, and I'm going to tell you, it changes everything. As you follow the Old Testament as a novel, as a mini-series, a story, David and Goliath is a total game changer. Now we're going to watch King Saul get crazy. We're going to watch him do some really dumb things. And he's going to really wobble. He's going to fight with David. He's going to try and kill David. And he's going to be really a rough between here and the end of him being a king and when David takes over. So that's what's going on Ladies' Bible Class on Fridays. You can join us there at 12:30 Texas time. And, of course, that's 1:30 Florida time and 10:30 California time, where the ladies all gather in California. So with that, we want to thank everybody. Glenn, Gary, thanks for joining us tonight. Always good to have you with us. You guys are doing a great job on Saturday. So glad, folks. I'm going to tell you, Dan sets up the shows. He's getting all the guests. The guys are getting together, getting their guests. I don't have to call in. I don't have to do anything. It just runs itself. It's just taking a big piece off my plate and giving me my Saturdays back, which are very important. I'm using those. So I want to thank you guys. You're doing a great job. I always get a chance to listen in. If I'm here at home, I'm listening while on the internet while you guys are going, and you're doing a great job. I want to thank everybody for that. And with that, I think what we talked about him tonight is, so in the rules of debate, if you talk about somebody, they get to have their say. So we're going to give Red Skelton a chance to state his opinion on the matter. Red Skelton, we've got him right back here in the back room. So Red, tell us, teacher in Indiana.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. This is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States. Individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all. which means boys and girls. It's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Today, Bridget Griffin shared a video of her daily yoga routine, 2 self-help articles, and her new blog called Build Your Inner Bridge with Bridge. Girl, your sharing has turned into oversharing. No worries, Bridge. Geico has some info worth sharing with your 7 blog followers, like how you could save money on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim just by visiting geico.com. How's that for building your inner bridge? Bridge? Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.